we had Isaias went right over Williamsburg.
Wow.
If you look at the path coming up Virginia, we were right smack dab in the middle of it Monday night.
That's just down here.
We were very lucky. We didn't lose any power. We had some little flickers the next day, but we were lucky. Some places had tornadoes. Hey, Jim.
Yeah.
Hey there.
Yeah, to the east of that.
Hi.
Well, actually, tornadoes were south of us in Suffolk, and actually in the Williamsburg area. I had a phone call, you know, one of those alarm things at like 4 in the morning, and there's a development north of us. In fact, there's a Balboa High 60 guy there. Did you ever know or hear of George Rambo?
No.
Balboa High?
Yeah,
No.
I did.
He was the opposite of what Rambo, when you think of Rambo. He was the opposite, or he is. I assume. Anyway, there's a development called Governor's Land, which is on the north side. It's on the James River, but it's heading further north, where the Chickahominy River comes in. And which happens to be where John Smith was exploring and got captured by the Indians. And anyway, he heard it like a train coming, and they were very lucky. These are very high-end homes up there, and it went through just the woods area, apparently, where the rivers, at the confluence of those rivers. And there was a picture on the front of our Virginia Gazette this morning of that. So they were lucky, but there were people further south in Suffolk on the other side of the James River, and sides of buildings came off and all kinds of stuff from the tornado action. So anyway, we were lucky for sure. And Florida sure missed the, you know, they were lucky. It looked like it was going to hit Florida big time, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my wife is, my sister is, Lorraine is in Jacksonville. She said they didn't even get any rain.
Wow.
And it stayed about 50 miles off the coast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we had been the previous week, we were on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And of course, you know, alarms go up. Hey, Darian. Alarms go up, you know, on the shore, on the beach. And we are on the northern part of it. You know, you go across the bridge and then you head north back towards Virginia Beach. And it's the southern area, Hatteras and Ocracoke Island. They really got socked with the last one. And they had a mandatory evacuation down there. But the big changeover day for most of the people down there for renters is on Saturday. And we have renters in our house now. And what usually takes a half an hour from where you come across a bridge and head up to where we are, 2 hours to get down to the main road where the bridge was. Because of everybody leaving and, you know, the change day plus people evacuating. So anyway, what usually takes us 2.5 hours to get down there, 5 hours to get back this time. So anyway, not a big deal. But then to leave there where everybody's freaking out and wind up having to come directly over Williamsburg was like, what? So anyway, everybody's okay. So that's the important part. Yeah.
So there's some more exciting areas of the country than others where storms are concerned. I guess
Oh, yeah.
Florida and Virginia can get a lot more storms.
Yeah.
And California, of course.
Well, they've only got fires and earthquakes and
mudslides.
Have you
Well,
talking about memorable storms? Are people talking about any memorable storms? I've got 3 that are most memorable to me. But go ahead. What, John, were you saying something?
well, I built my house in Hawaii in 2011,
And after I built that, we got a direct hit. A Hurricane Iniki was a Category 5, and it destroyed over 6,000 homes there. There was only a slight percentage, less than 5% of the ones that didn't get damaged. And mine was one of them because I screwed and glued the whole house together.
Wow.
And when we were down for months, and the military had to bring us emergency supplies and everything. It was quite drastic, but I handled it really well in my situation. And we were 2 months without any electrical power.
Wow.
God.
And what year?
What island were you on?
Island of Kauai,
Kauai. Okay.
the northernmost island, the small island of Kauai. And I became an expert at survival with, we created our own electricity, our own refrigeration, everything. And, you know, eventually it all worked out just amazing. And, you know, luckily for our experiences that we've had in the zone and everywhere else, that it was really amazing.
Wow. So you built that house in 2011. And when did the hurricane hit?
Yeah, I think I built a house. I started around 2009 and built that house. And like I said, I knew what I was building for. So I screwed and glued the whole thing together. And then all the extra lumber that I had left over in pieces, I took in the attic and nailed them across roof rafters, so that the house couldn't twist. And so it was pretty amazing. The winds were over 150 miles an hour.
Oh,
And if you've ever seen a chicken go by looking like a bowling ball, I mean, that was what was happening. It was extremely amazing.
Wow.
awful.
And the storm was in 2011 then, right?
I believe so. My memory is not that good, but somewhere I have the book that was written about it with all the pictures of everything that happened. And, you know, I was a assistant manager at Ace Hardware at the time. And when we finally got the road cleared of all the telephone poles that went down over the road, and they locked into the Armco barriers, you know, the metal barriers on the side. It took them like 2 weeks just to get the road open so people could even start to move around. And then we opened up the hardware store and we had to use flashlights to go get the stuff. Nobody could come in. They would come to the door with their list. And, you know, my boss asked me, he says, I was in charge of all the tools and all that kind of stuff. And he says, you know, what do you think we need to order? And I measured every single rack and we ordered everything that you could imagine and brought it in and sold it all. We topped the record in sales that year of all the Ace Hardware stores. And it was really funny. We ended up with a big generator running the store so we could use it. And the generator failed the day they came to hook the power back up 2 months later.
Lucked
So there
out.
was a lot of things that were really unique about the situation, and we handled it really well and had a good time. You know, we made the best. We worked on other people's houses. We did 5 houses at a time because we went 1 day to each person's house because we couldn't build one person's house back up and leave everybody else out in the open. So we had to build everybody's house up all at the same level. Like I said, we did 5 houses at a time. Every day we went to a different house and worked in that all day long.
I think people tend to bond when there's a crisis and everybody has to pull together. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it knocks out all that ego and everything else, you know. And
Except now we got a crisis and nobody can bond except online.
Unknown crisis to us.
everybody here is cheating like mad, you know. Yesterday being a Sunday, all the rivers and all were just lined with cars. Everybody was on the rivers and all just partying away. And, because they can isolate on the river, it's not like a beach, right? And amazing times and amazing things going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not unlike a storm itself.
Yeah.
way.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Jim, you had 3 storms?
Yeah, I had one. I wanted to talk. The first one really that was most memorable to me was Hurricane Connie. You may remember that. We were about 13 years old at that time.
Yes.
And
I
we
have
were
a story with that, but finish.
okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, we were on the ship going up to New York when it hit. And we were out, I think it was something like August the 12th or something. It was hitting, it hit North Carolina. And, but we were in the middle of this thing, and you wouldn't believe it. They had to rope off the hurricane deck. They had to empty the swimming pool. The stuff like the pitcher of fresh water hanging in the bathroom in our stateroom went down and broke. My mother was sitting at the dressing table, and her chair went all the way across and then all the way back across the stateroom. You would be out on the promenade deck and you couldn't see the sky. All you'd see is water. And then you'd be rolling the other side and then you'd see nothing but sky.
Oh, got it.
And hardly anybody. My father and I were among the few that were still up and around and going to meet them. So we had multiple desserts. There's all the ice cream I could eat and things
Oh,
like
God.
that. We enjoyed. And my sister she was about 8, almost 9, and I was 13. And my mom and sister stayed in bed, and my dad and I got up. We had the run of the ship because most people were laid low. But that was quite a storm, and it was a Category 4 that went down to a 2 by the time it had landfall in North Carolina. And then we got to New York, and soon after that we were on the train heading down to Georgia, and all the mid-Atlantic states were flooded. There was a Diane that came right after Connie, so together they really flooded the whole New England and the mid-Atlantic states. And so we were on the train and we could just see all the flooding as we headed south. So that was quite a hurricane. And what is your experience with Connie?
Okay, so we were in the States at that time, and I think I was 12. And my mother had always wanted me to go to a stayover camp. And so, and there was a camp in the mountains of Virginia called Camp Straderman, and it's still there. And one of her professors at either Longwood or James Madison, just Madison College in those days, was in charge of it. And so I was going there, I was going to go for about 2 weeks. And they were all down in Norfolk. Now, this was, in the Blue Ridge Mountains beyond the valley. And so I was there, and I managed, I think, must have been before I had my tonsils taken out, which I had done when I was 12, must have been later. And I was always getting tonsillitis or whatever. So, lo and behold, of course, after about a week or something, I come down with, temperature and all of that. And they call my parents, you need to come get her. So they come up during Hurricane Connie. They are driving, no interstates in those days, They had to go through Richmond, Charlottesville, on up. And to get into this camp, you had to drive through a stream. And so they came and got me, and I never will forget, we drove all the way through Hurricane Connie to get you, that kind of thing. So fast forward to a few years back, I don't know, Ed and I were staying at a hotel up in that area. I said, let's go see if Camp Straderman is still there. Well, I knew it was still there because I could find it, on I don't know, I must have had somehow. And so we drove up there, and lo and behold, the same, it was like a flashback. The cabins all had the same names. And the woman running it at that time, the campers had just gone. But the woman running it was still there, and she was related to, she was a niece or something of my mother's teacher that had it. And it was a flat. You now were able to go in a different route, just a road. But there was another entrance, and you drove through the stream. And I don't know how my parents' car made it through that stream, because it had to have been high at that time. But they had horseback riding, and they still do. Now it's more of that. And they had like a dammed up creek where you went swimming. And I remember, after swimming, Gatun pool, in that wonderful tepid water, coldest damn water I had ever dipped my toe into. I'm like, how do you learn to swim in this stuff? Anyway, Hurricane Connie, 12 years old. It's so funny that you had
I was on, I don't know whether it was that hurricane or not, but I mean, I remember 2 times coming from New York back to Panama. We had a hurricane coming up the coast, and what they always would do is, in this 2 of these times, they went into Norfolk Harbor.
into Norfolk?
And so we would, and we would be up on the, remember the deck where is inside where we played cards and everything?
Yeah.
And so, so we're sitting up there playing hearts, and the ship would roll to one side. You'd see a destroyer. It would roll to the other side. You'd see a submarine, because the whole fleet was going out. And and then in both cases, the we just anchored, and the storm went past us, and we never even realized it being on board ship. But we never realized that the storm had come past.
Yeah, well, we lived at Fort Monroe, and I think my biggest memory was Hurricane Gloria, because they were playing it on the song Gloria, how they do that.
Yeah.
Fort Monroe is right at the tip of the Virginia Peninsula, and it was built to prevent, after the British managed to sail up the Chesapeake Bay and burn, the White House and all that, they decided let's build a fort there, and which is still there, and we were stationed there. It's a moated fort. It's very cool, and it's where Jefferson Davis was held prisoner later on. So anyway, there's a cement walk, right along the water there, and you look over and there's Norfolk. You come into Hampton Roads right by Fort Monroe, and then the Navy, you would come in and then you'd make a left turn and head south, because that's where all the DNS piers and the carrier piers and all that are. That's destroyer submarine piers. We always call them the DNS piers. And Hurricane Gloria is coming, and we all piled down to the, right along the water, and watched them all go out. It was incredible. And we also, when we were living there, it was the first time that a Russian carrier or whatever the vessel was, I forget, came into Hampton Roads, and we were out on our sailboat, and my son, for some reason, had a Soviet Union flag, and he's flying the flag when the Soviet ship is coming in, yeah. That was a fantastic post, and it's now the Army has pulled out. Thank you, Rumsfeld, and they built a whole new. They had the what is it called now? Theater Army? No, now I can't even think of it. Anyway, it's like a 4-star headquarters. They rebuilt all of the training and doctrine command. Now I can say it. Training doctrine command. They rebuilt all of those huge office buildings just down the road at Fort Eustis. So anyway.
I think we lost Sandy.
Yeah. So anyway, am I not there?
You reminded me one time in Gatun Lake, the Nautilus submarine came through, and that was the first atomic submarine, I think.
Oh,
And
wow.
they were up there signaling, and we got up in our little dinghy sailboat and were giving the flags, waving back to them.
So what were your other 2 storms?
One was actually Barneveld, you may remember a huge tornado, an F5 tornado that came through Wisconsin in 1984 in Barneveld, which is just a village 25 miles west of Madison. And it was about, let's see, winds, let's see. I guess the winds were over 300 miles an hour, and they were 400 yards across in this tornado. And it just went through and just wiped out 90% of the buildings in that town. And it, what else did it do? It destroyed every tree in its path. And it was a 13-mile path of destruction that it left. And my son was at that time 6 years old, almost 6. And our daughter was 11. And that's very memorable to them because it was close, and but not, we weren't in the middle of it. Only 9 people were killed in spite of how devastating it was. It just plowed right through Barneveld and another little town called Black Earth that we pass through all the time as we head out west here. So that was quite a tornado. And then the other thing I remembered, and many of you may remember this too, again, I wasn't there, but I was settling down to watch the 3rd game of the World Series in Bay Area. It was the Oakland Athletics against the San Francisco Giants. And it was October 17th, 1989. And here it was 7 o'clock at night. It was 5 o'clock, I guess, in San Francisco. And we're all, the pregame show is going on. The game's going to start in about 20 minutes. And then bam, the earthquake hits. And that was a category, let's see, how much of a hurricane, an earthquake was that? It was quite a big one, 6.9. And it was at 5:04 p.m. And that was around 7 here. And, everything got disrupted. The game was canceled. And later, the Giants were already down 2-0. 2-0. And they ended up, the Oakland Athletics swept the series that time. But do you remember that, most of you? That
I think my brother-in-law and he had 3 boys like we do. And I don't know how, I think they were in those stands when that happened.
Oh, is that right? Wow.
They were living in the Bay Area.
Well, in the Bay Bridge, did you know that went down? So people couldn't get back to Oakland.
Right.
When they left. They had to go 4 hours driving around to get back to the other side.
And I remember the freeways collapsed on each other.
Right.
Yeah, that was down by the Giardelli Square. Down that area. They never rebuilt that part of the freeway.
It was just, you just can't imagine the hell that would be. Ruth Ann was living in Northridge in Southern California. I think it was pretty damaging in Northridge. I don't think it was that one, but that's in Southern California. Yeah. It's pretty terrible.
Yeah, when I was in banking, I was at the down in our lobby. This is the 55-story building, and I was down in the lobby at the ATM machine when
which bank? Which bank was it?
It was Security Pacific Bank, and it was right on Hope Street. And the thing hit, and it threw me all the way across the hall.
Oh my God!
Into a glass panel. Luckily, the panel didn't break because it was the branch of the bank, and it was made to be bulletproof. But that was about 7:30 in the morning. Well, what I could have understood, the lobby was about 80 feet high, and all the people in the building, what did they do? They come down the escalator and they're all standing there. And I said, get out of here. You're surrounded by glass. If we have another aftershock, you're going to be covered with glass. So, but the worst one but the worst one I was in Lima, Peru, and I was staying at the Grand Martin Hotel, which was an old historical hotel. the walls, because that area has lots of earthquakes, the walls were about 3 foot thick concrete. And it just happened to be afternoon, and a couple of us were sitting in the bar when the thing hit. And I mean, literally, everybody said, this is safe to be here, stay here. So we stayed there, because unlike California, when you have an earthquake in California, it lasts for maybe 30 seconds. In Peru, they last for about 2 minutes, and the buildings just kind of oscillate to the point where they just fall to pieces. And but this one here, I mean, it literally shattered some of the walls. All the stairs going up to the rooms collapsed. So the only way we could get to our room was by ladder.
Wow.
And we were stuck there. We were stuck there for 3 days before they could get the airport back into shape so planes could actually leave. So,
Wow.
but it was scary.
Wow. What year was that?
You know, I don't know. That would have been about. Let me see. That would have been probably around 70, 77 or someplace around there. I don't remember. It was because that place has earthquakes all the time. And some of them are, I mean, enormous. But the last thing I heard, they were trying to rebuild the hotel.
Huh.
I remember feeling earthquakes in Panama, don't you all?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, slight ones though.
Yeah. Marion, do you have any storm stories?
Yeah, a
Well,
couple. We were in Florida during, just after Andrew went through and
Yeah.
did all his destruction.
Yeah, that was bad.
We were involved in 5 that went through Inverness while we lived
They
there.
went through the state.
What?
Wow.
They did not go through Inverness. Only 2 went through Inverness.
Well, only 2 of the 5 went through Inverness.
The rest of them went somewhere in the state.
My corrector is back there. That's all right.
I get accused of that all the time. Doesn't make any difference to the story, you know.
Right.
Why'd you have to bring that up, you know?
Well, did you know that that's what Eleanor Roosevelt did to Franklin all the time? He would get carried away and elaborate on his stories, and she would always bring him back to reality.
Given the evil eye, you know.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the 2 that came through there that we remember was Francis and Jeannie. And they mainly brought rain.